Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of anywhere else? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He's ranking the top 10, let's see, highlight top 10 non-Mahomes players. Okay, that's interesting. So he's leaving off Mahomes in this top, because he usually before a really big game, he does like the top 10 players of both teams combined. And then his whole thing is whoever has the most amount of better, who has more top players in the top 10 should win the game. But I don't know if since obviously everyone knows Patrick Mahomes is number one, that he's just throwing that to the side. I'm curious.
10 best players in order in Super Bowl 58. Number one's an easy one. That's Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, okay.
He is the first quarterback in league history with no interceptions in 6 straight playoff games against many good defenses, often on the road. Highest graded quarterback this season, according to PFF, and that is with one elite wide receiver.
Christian McCaffrey.
He is a remarkable all-time talent. Certainly in the argument now, if he wins Sunday, as the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, and he just recently entered his prime. Number 2, I don't think this one's difficult, Christian McCaffrey. In an offensive league, he is the best running back, and I don't think it's that close. 38 touchdowns in 32 games with the Niners. On a short list on the most versatile running backs in league history. Most scrimmage yards, most touchdowns. You stop him, you go a long way in stopping this loaded San Francisco team. Number 3, Trent Williams. Short list, best left tackle ever. Listen to this. 517 times this year he had to pass block. He allowed 0 sacks. 79 times in the postseason he has pass blocked. He has allowed 0 sacks. In fact, he's only allowed 2 pressures. He is an all-timer, great guy. Second highest graded offensive tackle in the league this season. Getting up there, won't be around for very long, probably 2 to 3 more great years. Number 4 is Nick Bosa. The D-line for the Niners has been a little bit disappointing this year, but he has 10 sacks in 11 career playoff games. He led the Niners in tackles, pressures, sacks. Of the Bosa brothers, he's the one that just continually shows up on Sunday and is an absolute nightmare for offensive lines. Nick Bosa, 4. Number 5 is Travis Kelce. Like Gronk, he almost guarantees to be better in big games. Led all tight ends in catches, yards this season, including the playoffs. Both of us, J-Mac and I, thought, it's getting near the end, and he's been just absolutely phenomenal. The Baltimore game was one for the ages. So Travis Kelce, just like Gronk, you're starting to doubt him, wobbling a little, and then he surpasses some of his best games ever. Number 6 is Deebo Samuel. What a unique player. Led all receivers in rushing 4 of 5 years. Not sure exactly how you defend him. Here's the greatest number on Deebo Samuel. When he plays, the Niners win 70% of their games. 70%. When he doesn't, despite all the talent here, they win 47%. That is a game changer. That is a playmaker, Deebo Samuel. Number 7, Chris Jones. After Aaron Donald, best interior D lineman last half decade. Number 1 rated postseason interior lineman. 28.5 sacks over the last 2 years. I don't know how long. He was on our show once. He's going to be in Kansas City. But Chris is just better and better and better. Now, they've drafted pretty well in the defensive front, so he's harder to double team, but I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't have a big impact Sunday. Number 8, George Kittle. Listen, it's hard to put him and stack up him and Kelce. I think Kelce has had more big moments in big games. Some of that's just Mahomes. Kittle was the highest graded tight end this year to PFF. He led all tight ends with 1,000 receiving yards. He will end up in Canton, Ohio, one of the top 7-8 tight ends I've ever seen, George Kittle. Number 9, the surging Brandon Ayuk. PFF had him as the number 2 wide receiver. I got to be honest with you. I thought he'd be a good player. I didn't think he'd be this good. He has been sensational, getting better. You know, the NFL
Brock Purdy not even
gets handed
up there.
about a dozen to 15 receivers from college every year that are good. But, I mean, I knew Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. There's guys you kind of know early. Brandon Ayuk has become a star, highest graded offensive player for the Niners this year. Highest graded offensive player. Number 10 was an easy one for me. L'Jarius Sneed, Kansas City. In an argument for the best corner, he allowed...
So, okay. This all depends on how we want to, figure out how we want to accept this list was made. Are we just saying career-wise, these are the best players? These are the players that are the most important to their teams? Or if these players were up to be drafted, right? These 10 players, like you're picking a schoolyard team right now, right? Backyard team, and you're just picking teams, like who would you pick? In a lot of ways, then I could maybe understand this list a little bit more. But at the same time, because you're not going to say Purdy is better at the quarterback position than Kittle is at tight end, or obviously Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey at running back, or Debo at, I know he's called a wide receiver, but he's a Swiss Army knife. He's everything, and same thing with Kittle and Bosa. So if you want to compare it in that way, you could say, okay, that makes sense. But if we're talking about the Super Bowl, the top players, because we're not talking about the best players necessarily, because Kittle this season has played better than Kelsey. Even Kelsey has admitted this. Kelsey has said Kittle is the best tight end in the NFL right now. Kelsey has not particularly had a good season. This is one of his worst seasons theoretically. He's played good enough in the playoffs, and he had obviously a big game in the Ravens, but he didn't have a big game against the Dolphins. I mean, he had a lot of drop. What do you have? 3 drop passes or something crazy in against the Dolphins. And you could say cold weather, that's fine, but that's still something. So this list, the way how I kind of like to look at it more than is like, who's really important in this game? Who do you really need to have, big games? Who are you really relying on and going into this game? Obviously Mahomes, right? Obviously Christian McCaffrey. Bosa, I don't know. Bosa has not been doing much these playoffs necessarily. Or what are you expecting Bosa to do against Mahomes? Like, you winning or losing is not dependent on Bosa having a big game. Don't get me wrong. It's significantly easier if Bosa is able to break through and obviously rough up Patrick Mahomes and tackle him, sack him, and pressure him 3, 4, 5 times. Like, well, then yeah, of course, right? But at the same time, that's not always the solution to beating the Chiefs. You can't bank on containing Patrick Mahomes as your path to victory. That's just like saying, like, okay, we're going to beat LeBron James by containing LeBron or stopping Steph from shooting threes. Like, no, Steph is going to hit his threes. LeBron James is going to get his points. He's going to be LeBron. And the way how the Warriors beat LeBron James, or the Spurs beat LeBron James, wasn't by necessarily stopping LeBron James. They beat when LeBron has scored 50 points. So that's not the solution here. So what do so from the 49ers perspective, what do you need? Well, you need Brock Purdy to play a really amazing game, or he just can't play a bad game, right? So he doesn't necessarily have to play amazing as in like scrambling for 45 seconds and then throwing an 80-yard bomber. He doesn't have to be magical, although again, kind of like what I said with Bosa, it makes your life easier if he can be magical, if he can rip off for a 30-yard run or really scramble, evade pressure, and then throw a dime, that obviously makes everything easier, but that's not your game plan. Your game plan isn't like, we need Purdy magic. No, the game plan is to minimize any mistakes that Purdy can make, not unlike what the Chiefs do with Patrick Mahomes. It's like, let's minimize mistakes, play a good, solid, complete game, no turnovers, and that's really important. So I just don't know why you couldn't have how you could possibly not have Purdy up there. Because put it this way, who needs to have a better game, Purdy or Bosa? If Purdy throws a couple interceptions and plays bad, but Bosa plays great, like, who do you think's gonna, like, if you just knew this stat line, Bosa 2 sacks, Purdy 2 interceptions, who won this game? You would say probably the Chiefs. 2 interceptions, giving the ball right back to the Chiefs, giving Patrick Mahomes extra possessions, extra time. You're going to say that. So if you now hear Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns, Nick Bosa, no sacks, they didn't have a big game, who are you going to guess who won? Well, you would probably have to maybe even lean towards the 49ers, because you would say the Chiefs haven't had this high-powered offense this season. So there's no real guarantee that the Chiefs were going to be able to keep up back and forth with this. So you just don't know. Because again, for the Chiefs, if you're a 49ers fan, you're relying more on the Chiefs offense to be lackluster, for them to drop some key passes, for you to double team Kelsey and make it trouble. So then they have to rely, because where are the wide receivers for the Chiefs up here? They're not really there. And they rely on Pacheco a lot. So I just think it's pretty interesting for this list, because again, if you just want to say who are the best players, okay, that's something. But if you want to say, like, who are the key players, the important players going into the Super Bowl, that's a different conversation to be had, and probably a more important, more accurate discussion to be had, because I would say right now, Deebo Samuel is better and does more for the 49ers than Kelsey does, without a doubt, from my viewpoint. But Kelsey is probably technically more important to the Chiefs, because there's significantly less weapons for the Chiefs compared to the 49ers. The 49ers have McCaffrey, Ayuk, right? They have Kittle. They have these other weapons. So if Deebo does go down, it's obviously not ideal, but there's still ways that you can win. If Travis Kelsey goes down in the Super Bowl, is anyone really betting that the Chiefs can win? Probably not. So again, this conversation gets kind of tricky when it depends on how you kind of want to look at it. Where do you want to put people? Who's important? Who's better? It's a fascinating discussion, but always difficult to have. But either way, I don't see how you can't have Purdy up there. He's the quarterback. He's one of the 2 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl right now. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me from that viewpoint. But what do you all think? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you think this list is good? Do you think it needs to be moved around? Do you think Purdy should be up there? Anyone else? Any other players that are just not on there that you think should be on there, or any players that are on there that you think should be knocked off? Let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really, really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.